Hi, my name is Casey, and this is me. And these are my sisters. As you can see, I am the big sis of my family, and I always wish that I had my own older sibling myself so that they could tell me everything and just figure all my shit out for me. Well, I don't. I'm the oldest sibling. So, here is my 8-part series with the following topics on college-related advice. And I hope that this helps someone and I can be your internet big sis. And before we get started, I am by no means an expert in any of this. I'm just a little bit older than you guys, or whoever's interested in watching. So I know a thing or two at this point. I want to be helpful because I didn't have that kind of help when I was going into college, and I like knowing things rather than trying to figure everything out by myself necessarily. So I hope this helps, but please do your own research and ask your own college upperclassmen and not me, because my experience will be very different than yours and the next person and my friends even in my school, so please keep that in mind. Oh, and by the way, if I'm looking down, it's because my iPad is right there and I got my script here. This video is separated in 3 parts. The first part is just general advice that is helpful for everyone. The second part is for people that already know for a fact and are very sure that this is what they want to do in life. Like they know their career path, they know their chosen majors. That's the second part. And the third part is for people that don't know what they're doing and are completely lost, and that's okay. I have the timestamp right somewhere here, and you can skip to the part that is relevant to you later, but for now, please listen to me about the general advice. My first tip is to do a lot of research about what kind of classes are offered at your school and what are the ones that are required from you. I would do research on what your school requires. Some schools may require language, some schools require English, some schools don't require anything at all. Figure out what the requirements are for graduation and try to get rid of them as soon as possible, so you might want to consider adding one of those classes in your first semester. The other thing that I would research is major requirements. If you know your major, then go ahead, do some research, go see what kind of classes are offered and what type of classes are best for your intro level, and go ahead and put that in your bucket list of classes. My second tip, and probably the most important tip that I have for everyone here, is please take a light first semester. When you're a freshman and you're moving into college, it's a very new life. You're adjusting to trying to become an adult. You're away from family, you're trying to make new friends, you're in a completely different environment. And you should give yourself some time and some grace to adjust and also to make new friends and to join clubs. Your goal, unless you can't afford to do so, in which case by all means do what you need to do. But if you can afford to do so, then try to keep your first semester light so that you can spend that time also doing productive things like joining clubs, going to school events, and a bunch of other things that will be available to you, instead of sticking yourself in the library and studying from morning to night, 3. My third tip that I only recently discovered, I wish I had discovered way earlier, is this website called Rate Your Professor. A lot of professors in college, at least in my experience, are incredibly smart people. They have their own research going on, they're crazy smart, they have all these things that they're doing at the same time. Which is also why sometimes they're not the best professors, even though they might be very much experts in their field. So, Rate Your Professors is a website where students go ahead and, rate their professors. I would say that in my experience, if your professor is outstandingly bad at teaching, then they will get really bad reviews, and you will see a low number and you will see a bunch of horrible reviews. I don't want to make anyone feel bad, but obviously you might want to try to avoid taking that professor if you have a different option. If your professor is average to good, then chances are they'll have a mid review. No people go out of their way to write really bad reviews, but people don't usually go out of their way to write good ones. So keep that in mind. If you see a 3 or 4 out of 5, then that's considered pretty good. If you see a 2 or lower, that's not that great of a sign, and you might want to avoid it if you can. Sometimes, personally, I even avoid it to the point where I won't even take that class this semester. If it means the following semester, I have a higher chance of being with a different professor, just in case. Because at the end of the day, the way your professor teaches can make or break how much you enjoy the subject in the class. Also, how well you do in it. So I think this is probably a very important piece of advice. You might want to go check it all out when you're going through like the class registration period. 4, if you have classes that you really want, and also just in general, it's probably helpful if you can be ready like the moment that you know registration opens. So get up early if you have to, have your like registration bucket ready, if that it'll make sense to you. If it doesn't make sense right now, it will make sense to you when you're doing it. There's this ranking system, I'm pretty sure all schools have this, where you rank the classes that you want from most to least. I would suggest that you put the classes that have smaller class sizes. So for example, if you have like classes that are only 20 people compared to 150 people, you're more likely to get into the 150 person class compared to the 20 person class. So put that up higher, especially if you really want it as well. And then be ready the moment that it turns 7 or whatever your registration time is, and click on that little button. That gives you the highest chance of getting the classes that you want. 5, if for some reason you do get waitlisted for one of your classes, meaning you don't get in, but if somebody else is not in that class anymore or chooses to drop it, then you might get that position, and you really need it or you really want that class, then feel free to email your professor of that class and ask if it's possible for an exception to be made. The worst thing they can say is no. You may or may not get that, but it's like some professors are really nice and they're open to that. I personally never tried it, but I know it's a thing, and like you're welcome to do that if you feel like you really need it. 7, if you're on a budget or if you're on a time crunch, for example, if you're attending college with loans, or you don't have your family or you don't have that much to pay for it, then consider trying to make a very succinct plan for college. So you can plan out a 3 or 3.5 year timeline. You can plan out all the classes you're going to take for each semester. That way you ensure that you don't dilly-dally on anything else and you're not wasting time, because the less semesters you're in college, the less it costs. Usually that's how it works. So if you wanted to, and it's entirely possible, and I know people that are finishing college in 3 years, for me personally, I would have liked to do that, but in hindsight, I didn't plan things properly. I didn't really know how that worked. I didn't even know that was a thing. So I'm just letting you guys know that it is possible to graduate early. It's quite common to graduate 3 and 3.5 years. I mean, more common than I thought, at least. So if you know what you're gonna do and you're so sure of it and you just want to like get a college degree as soon as possible, then by all means go out, plan it out. You can even talk to like your academic advisor, which is someone that your school will probably assign either an academic advisor to you or like go to a place where there's academic advising. You can go ask people to help you plan that out if you want it. Number 8, it's kind of related to number 2. Try to take a light semester if you can, and if it's within your means to do so, and don't compare yourself to others. Myself and some of my peers as well, sometimes we find ourselves like comparing ourselves to each other, like, oh, Bella here is taking 21 credits and I'm only taking 14 or whatever it is. You know, don't compare yourself, because at the end of the day, like, it's your college experience and you're gonna go at your own pace. I think it's probably more worth your time and your money and your effort to do better in less classes than to do okay or bad in more, and to stress yourself out much more than necessary. So especially for like the first semester, I would recommend everyone, regardless of who they are or what they want to do, to try to take less and try to do things at your own pace. So the final tip that I have is that you should go ahead and reach out to your university's like resources. For example, a lot of universities will have pre-professional advising. They will also have career centers. They'll have like mental health support, all sorts of stuff that you might need. You can actually find on your university's website, or like try to go out and talk to people, physically go to those buildings and ask. The only thing that's different is sometimes you might feel lost because you're like, oh, there's no one to tell me what to do. Well, in college, a lot of the times no one's gonna tell you what to do, but there are a lot of resources that are available that if you go out of your way to go find them, then they're available to you. They're free most of the time, and you might as well take advantage of it. So this is true for everyone. Just don't be shy and go ahead, do some research, and then go take advantage of all the resources that you have. Why wouldn't you, right? You're like paying for this degree. Moving on to people that know for a fact what they want to do. Now, I think this is very rare, and it's very likely that you will change your mind, which is totally fine. A lot of people end up changing their mind, and it's not the end of the world, and it's probably actually a good thing if you like open yourself to more options. I know I sound like a hypocrite because I haven't, but most people do it. It's fine, okay? But if you are 100% sure of what you want to do in life, and you know your major, and you know your career path, and everything you're sure of, you think you're destined for it, then I would go through and really take a in-depth look of your major requirements and also your school requirements, and make a flexible-ish plan for the next like 4 years, 3.5 years, 3 years, whatever it is that you want in life. Okay, so for example, a lot of majors will say like, oh, here are the required courses, and then here are the electives, and in electives they have to be within which department and which department. So you can plan out like every single class that you think you're going to take or you're going to have to take for the next 4 years in like a little spreadsheet, and make sure that you don't miss any of the requirements. It will probably save you trouble later in life. If you are sure about like your professional path, then you really want to delve into the resource of like your pre-professional advising center in your school that you will probably have. So for example, if you're a pre-law or pre-health, like I'm a pre-health, then I could go to my pre-professional advising center and go and reach out to like an advisor, and they'll give me suggestions on what classes they think I should take next, what activities I should do that might help me with my career path. So go look for all that support. I already mentioned it earlier, but I would say it's especially important if you already know for a fact what you want to do, so you can be the most efficient as possible. If you are lost, do not worry. Most people come into college being very lost, or they change their mind very quickly and figure out that like this is not at all what I want to do and I have no interest. That is okay. College is the time for you to figure that out. So give yourself some grace for that. Here's what I would do if I was lost. I would go through and eliminate all the majors that I know for a fact that I would like hate doing, that I would dread every morning waking up and be like, oh my gosh, I hate math with a passion. Why would I go out of my way to do engineering or like physics or something like that? So go out and list out the majors that you know for a fact that you would hate. Now everything else that you think you're like, or I might like it, keep those. That's the first thing I would do. And the second thing I would do is that for the first semester, I would probably take, once again, a light semester, and also I would take a mix of classes. So I would take some classes that are required classes for my school. For example, I might be required a language class, even though I think the majors that I might be interested in are like anthropology, sociology, and psychology or something like that, you know? And then I would focus the rest of my classes on taking some intro courses in one of those majors that you think might be interesting, because usually intro courses give you a good idea of whether or not you'll actually enjoy it. And also when you dip your toes into the intro courses, then you can get connected with like teaching assistants, which are often called TAs in your school. TAs, like older students that are in that major that are helping the professors teach. Those people are usually very good resources for asking them about the major, about the career path that they might want to do. And also if you take intro courses, then you also have a chance to like talk to the professor during office hours. Office hours is time where like professor dedicates you coming to ask them questions. I would start the first semester, since you don't know for a fact what you want to do yet, not planning things thoroughly, but just plan to take a few of these classes that you might be interested in, and then also to take like the required classes so that you don't waste any time. And then also during this time, I would, during orientation and the first weeks of school, and also throughout the rest of the semester, please like stay up to date with your school's like news. They will probably have like a website or some Instagram or something where there are regular updates on different events and speakers that might come. Especially during orientation, you might have a chance to go through the different departments of school, like the Department of Engineering, Department of Public Health, Department of Philosophy, and then go listen to what these professors and their speakers have to say. Sometimes they'll bring in people that are alumni that are already working in their field after graduating an XYZ major, and then you can hear about their experiences and see if that's something that might potentially be fulfilling to you for your career. So make sure you keep track of those events and try to go to them, and that's part of why I keep suggesting like taking a light semester so you can do these other things, which are also very productive, and go ahead and do that. Okay. And then also, I've already said this, but go to your career center and go to your pre-professional advising center. They have plenty of students in the same boat as you that know nothing. They don't know what they're gonna do, why they want to do anything, what their purpose in life is. They might be lost. That's okay. Like, that's what they're there for. There are so many resources at school. And also, go to academic and professional clubs. You can join them, maybe like a few weeks even, and then go there partially for the purpose of like learning about that major or that like academic discipline, and partly also just to meet people that are in there that are probably older than you, that probably have a lot of good things to say that's specific to your major. And then eventually, I would say if you keep that up, you will find something that either you find some passion for, which congratulations, or even if you don't have a passion, which is fine, you will find something that like you don't dread doing, you don't hate with a passion. Then that's also good enough. That's a success in my opinion. Please stay tuned for the rest of the episodes. I have 7 more coming, and the next one that will be up is moving and adjusting to independent adult life. Once again, I am by no means an expert in any of this, but I'm just an older person who has been in college for almost 3 years longer than you freshmen. So that's why I think I have a thing or two to say that you guys can listen to. But of course, this advice may or may not apply to everyone, so please keep that in mind though. Okay, thank you. Please consider liking, subscribing, commenting, and oh yeah, please comment any questions that you might have. That are quick questions. If you have longer ones, you can email me and I will try to reply. We'll see. Okay, thanks for clicking. Bye.